All right, I believe we're live. I'm going to wait a few minutes for a few people to show up. But while I do, today's main topic is going to be the Houston Housing Authority, after quite some time, has decided to open. This is a really good time because, unlike New York, LA, Chicago, the city of Houston and the state of Texas does not have quite the problem that a lot of major cities do. And so that allows you to kind of apply, and then you have much better odds. As far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, I think that the Houston Housing Authority, for the most part, does a pretty good job, actually. And it's also in my native city. So now, a few introductions before we get started. My name is Jay. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I work with anywhere from 600 to maybe 1,000 clients a year, and we work with people that have difficulty navigating the system and getting housing vouchers, subsidies, and other low-income properties, affordable properties, and so on. And today, I think the important part is really just kind of going over the information we have. So what I want to do is talk to you about what's expected, how to apply, and all that for the Houston Housing Authority. So give me one brief moment. Got on video late today. I had planned this to be a little bit sooner, but it looks like I wasn't quite prepared the way that I should have been. And but that's okay. So one of the things we're talking about is that list. The Houston Housing Authority is opening their list for tomorrow for applicants. And so January 15th, 2023 at 12 p.m. Central Standard. So depending on the state you're in, it'll be Central Standard Time. The web portal allows applicants to access and update their waiting list status information. If you don't have access to a computer or electronic device, you may utilize the Houston Housing Authority or HAA's computer centers at any public housing sites. Of course, you can go to the public library as well. Important details regarding the application process. There is no charge to apply or be placed on the Housing Authority list. That should be clear, I think, because there are a lot of Google marketing about people saying you can sign up and be on every list, but really those people are in China and Russia somewhere in the bushes with a computer collecting money, and then there's no reality of them ever doing any of that. It's all nonsense. Applicants must save their login and ID and password. You'll need this information to check the status of the application. And look, do not call them. Not that they'd even answer the phone, but they don't want you to call. Okay. Applicants placed on the waiting list must submit all changes, contact number, address, family size, and elect through the online application portal. It's important to keep that information up to date. If 90 days pass and things do change, you have more income or another person in the composition of the household, then clearly you want to go ahead and update that. The application portal will allow for those that speak English, Spanish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, and Swahili. It's a very interesting combination of languages. I'm sure there are many more they could accommodate. If you prefer an alternative language, you may call the 504 hotline at 713-260-0353 or 504-ADA at housingforhouston.com to request translation services and bring the designee to assist you with the application. If you are hearing impaired, that'd be 711-TTY. So moving on from that, housing applicants do not have to live in Houston or Harris County to apply for HHA. Now, I am so glad that the Houston Housing Authority brought that up. Do you know our company, Section8Consulting.com, deals with clients every day, and they believe fundamentally the only place they can apply is in their zip code or in their county. But the reality of it is, it doesn't have to be in your own town. Sometimes a little cornfield in Iowa that has a small housing authority might have 50 vouchers out there, and a bunch of rich corn farmers. And you applying there on a wait list that's only a year, and then you provide, maybe you're a senior and other things, these are preferences, then that would allow you to get the voucher there. And then they could say, hey, you know what? We'll grant portability. Congratulations, here's your voucher. We don't care where you move it to. So it'd be foolish for people in other areas of the planet to not be applying for this, period. And they've given you a license to do so. I'm so glad, like I said, they brought that up. You may apply to live as many public housing locations as you would like. And that brings up a question about whether or not this would be, project-based housing with inclusion of HCV or housing choice voucher. You only need to submit one pre-application. And again, this is a pre-application. For those that aren't aware, pre-applications are a determination of, hey, or is this person old when they list their birth date? Do they make too much money? And so a lot of people get eliminated for those factors. And I don't know the specific amounts as far as what they consider low income, but it's be safe to say 26,000 to 35,000 would take you out of the low income arena, and being that represents around 10-15% of preference or your ability to get up or down that list. After you apply online, you'll receive a email and text message, and or you must get an acknowledgement letter by mail. Let's be very clear, guys. If you're that type of person that can't be bothered to take calls and stuff like that, you should just go ahead and quit right now. The housing, look, you're into it to them; they're not into it for you. Okay. If you have that type of attitude, you can't be bothered. You got other things going on. Maybe you need to go to yoga class or something. This is not for you, okay? Because they're not going to deal with nonsense people. Let's just be very clear. Beyond that, you want to respond immediately. If you clear pre-application, you're going to primary, your odds at that point probably getting the voucher is going to be very, very high. You can manage your application anytime by signing in to the online application portal. To be clear, the online application portal, I have linked that up in the description, but that portal is not there. You cannot see it just yet. You're just going to land on the page, nothing there. It will be available at 12 noon Central Standard Sunday, okay? And so at lunch tomorrow, that's when it happens. For those of you that are smart, you want to be early with this, okay? You may manage your application anytime, again, by signing on to there. And it's essential that if you move or you change your address, you better God forsake you, change it. If you don't believe, if you're a real flighty person, you better list grandma's address on there, because you know grandma's been living in the same place for 88 years. If you don't trust yourself, then you need to trust a relative. I've also included an FAQ link, and that's to answer all the crazy questions many of you are going to have. And I think a lot of them have been addressed very well. So I want to tell you what you're going to expect after applying. The application process follows the steps that are pretty much a general summary of the process itself. So the first is the pre-application fill out. The waiting list will be for the individual or family that is placed on the waiting list according to preference, location, bedroom size, and accessibility needs. For those of you that are disabled and need an accommodation, that subject matter may be addressed on the pre-application you'll be dealing with that day. And again, that is not the end all be all. They may not allow you to even talk about what it is you need it for, but you can suggest by checking the box if they have one. The selection process corresponds to the apartment vacancy rates, and also if they're handing out housing choice vouchers. Applicants are chosen based on a random lottery selection according to preference, location, bedroom size. Let's be clear. There are two types of lottery. There are lotteries that are completely random, which means any 19-year-old that hates his job at Taco Bell and feels entitled. Okay. But I want to tell you that this is a different type of lottery, because you'd be foolish to believe they're not going to screen out people that are old, veterans, seniors, and disabled. Okay. So though it may be a lottery, it would be important to understand they're going to separate out the nonsense people in the lower lottery, and then probably those that have good qualifying factors in the top, and then at that point they would draw on that. So in some respects, it is a lottery. It's going to be a lottery of people with serious problems, and then there's going to be a lottery of foolish people, and the foolish people will never be called or addressed. Okay, that's just the reality of the system. Lotteries don't work in the fashion that most of you think when you think of scratch offs, and lotteries in that respect. Okay. I would imagine that we should probably have our first round of letters and correspondence out of the Houston Housing Authority within 30 days, depending on how many people apply. We just came through a pandemic, and housing's still very much a crisis, and there's a lot of people that need this. So I expect probably 80,000 applicants. Of that 80,000 people, only about 15 to 20,000 will actually have a real case. All right. Believe it or not, 60,000 people get it because they get that and everything else for free. And this is just another way for them to get something free. And they'll end up in that lottery that goes nowhere. And for those of you that actually have real issues and actually deserve to be on the list, they'll be able to identify your application pretty easily. And I think that it'll go very well for you. Now, in closing this, I want to say a few things. If you've been struggling with housing, vouchers, subsidies, and other issues related to Section 8 housing, low-income housing, affordable housing, and so on, and you've given it your best. You got a lot of sleepless nights and you're still struggling to get housing or trying to adjust things because you can't afford to rent, and you're not able to get this on you've given it your best and you can't get it done. It may be a time, it may be a good time to consider working with a company that deals in this. We consult them that matter. It's only a good idea to utilize a situation or company like ours if every best efforts failed and you're just still waiting for your life to go by. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, we have reasonably low prices in many aspects, and clearly, 99% of our clients are on a fixed income or barely income, and so we keep that in mind in many ways. So, anyways, I'm going to post some information in regards to my company. And again, you do not have to pay anybody. Let's be perfectly clear. You do not need to pay anybody. We don't charge people for applications and all that. You can call HUD. They'll give you a couple of minutes. You can call the housing authority if they'll answer. And then, of course, there's also another free resource, 211. So all those resources are free. All of them give you a few minutes. And that is what it is. If those things have not worked out, you know, consider other options as long as you can verify that there's a certain level of legitimacy. Our company is registered in the state of Texas. Because it is a federal program, and these are vouchers. We work with clients in all 50 states and have so for over 2 decades. We do what we can to help clients educate and so on. And we've worked in a lot of different situations. I've enjoyed making this video. I believe if you have any questions, guys, go ahead and ask. I'd encourage you to get out there, get those applications, whether it's on your phone, computer, library. Take your shot and see whether or not you get a chance. I think that a lot of people are struggling, and there's nothing to be ashamed of in utilizing housing or a voucher, because you're not ashamed when you accept that Social Security check. You weren't ashamed of that when you went to your job and you worked all your life and you paid taxes. You pay taxes on this, so don't be ashamed of that. There's been a stigma that has been attached to vouchers and housing for a long time. Yet we don't have a stigma attached to Social Security checks. Look, you've already paid for the service. You might as well use it, that's the reality. Now, whether or not people use it for the wrong reason or get in the program for the wrong reason and do the wrong thing, that's them. And of course, the news will glamorize it. That's why housing and vouchers come with a little bit of stigma. But I think that most people do envision vouchers and housing as a picture of what we saw in the 80s. Look, the system is fundamentally different. It's not based on how many children you have or what color you are and all that. The vast majority of people that hold vouchers and so on are Caucasian people, actually, just like with food stamps. And children play no role really in this. You having 15 children is not going to matter. It's not going to make you go up or down a list, really. It may be some consideration if you have an infant, but it's just not a preference that's considered as to whether or not you're going to get this. What's going to matter is whether or not you're 55 plus, whether you're 62 plus, whether or not you're a United States veteran and served our country, whether or not you have an extreme low income, 18,000, 26,000, 35,000, somewhere up in there. Whether or not you have multiple generations in your home, so you have grandchildren, children, and of course yourself. So you have multi-generational homes. That matters. Whether or not you're utilizing existing services potentially, which means food stamps and other things, Medicare, Medicaid may play a factor. Race does not play a factor whatsoever. If you're an American Indian, that would play a factor into this. Whether or not you live locally in town will give you a little bit of preference. And there's many more, actually, we could go down. Now, housing authorities can be bought and run like any business. Most people don't realize that. About half of them are owned by the big cities. So if you're like LA, New York, they own their own housing authority. That makes sense, right? To manage it. But most towns, that's actually somebody privately owns it. Now you understand why this sometimes goes so badly and you get treated so badly and why they never answer the phones. And of course, the program's funded high and low, and sometimes it's not managed the right way. But we have to, anytime you want something fundamentally for free, you should expect there's going to be nonsense and a wait. Okay. That's a given. There's no sense in complaining about that. I think we should remain focused on the task at hand of getting that application and seeing if you're going to meet the criteria, and then getting out and get it done. If you do, then you've achieved something. Bitching about it isn't going to help you. So I always remind even my clients and non-clients that look, it ain't no different than you stand sitting in your wheel. You can sit at the doctor's office for an hour. What's the difference between that and the DMV and trying to get this? It just takes a little bit longer, right? Well, guys, I've enjoyed making the video, and we're gonna have a live video Sunday. I think we've got about 700-800 videos we made to date over a decade. And Sunday, I'm going to be introducing some new staff. We're going to be inclusionary of the Hispanic community. I hired these specific folks to help to translate and other things. Now, why have I not hired an African American or a Vietnamese? Because most people that are Vietnamese or Chinese or African American don't speak a different language in most cases. Since we have a large Hispanic population. And when I'm saying this, I also want to be very clear. When we're addressing the Hispanic community, we're talking about people that have a legal right to be here. Okay. I'm not talking about people that just enter the country any way. Okay. And of course, we're not going to entertain any bigotry, racism, or other issues in this channel. If somebody decides to engage in that through our chat or comments, you will be banned forever. Okay. We're not going to turn this into a political channel. We're just here to help with housing. That's it. Regardless of who you are and where you're from, as long as you have a right to be here. Okay. I've enjoyed making this video, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.